Part of leadership series, we will be talking on how to think and communicate clearly. In this video, we are going to be looking at the importance of clear communication in the specific sense of talking concisely. If you ask someone going on, then you often might ask yourself, where is this going? If you are the kind of leader who has many conversations like that, then this is going to be great module for you to learn about how to think clearly and communicate concisely. Enjoy your learning. In this final module, we focus on how we actually communicate with people in our everyday activities. The idea is to show you how you use the two control cycle in everyday's life and you lead and then how to use it from the leadership perspective in terms of everything from a simple conversation to when you are having to prepare the next strategy for the next year. When we talk with someone, we always need to be clear in our minds about what our goal is. Are we gathering information? Is the goal to build social capital and with someone? Is the goal perhaps to explain what needs to be happen, or do we just need support to support somebody who is having a bad day? The point is that as a leader, you should always be clear in your mind about what the goal of the conversation is. And you are talking, you should be planning how you move the conversation towards your goal. If your goal is to seek information, then your plan should be around asking the right kind of questions. And then you should communicate those questions in an appropriate way. And then implementation stage, of course, makes sure that the questions are answered. And then learning stage makes sure that you are actually listening to the answers and incorporating that new learnings into the ways that you going forward, or perhaps if your colleagues are just having a really bad day and what they really need is for you to just support them. The control cycle is still very useful here. So the goal is still, of course, support your colleague, and then it is about planning what is the best way to do it. And maybe there is a person who wants you to say a lot of comforting words, or maybe they are the person who prefers you to just to not to say anything at all and just quietly be there with them. Once you have planning around how to support your colleague, then you need to make sure that you communicate in the right way, saying the right words or not saying the right words, and then make sure that you are arriving the right way. That is the implementation stage. And then, as you are trying to support your colleague, pay attention, observe, and your words having an effect on them. Is it working, or it is actually making things worse? And then adapt your approach so that you can then be more useful for your colleague. It is not about being too planned in communication. It is about being mindful and being engaged. We, as a 21st century leaders, do not just want to be blabbering away mindlessly. We want to be focused, in tune with our needs and needs of other individual. And then we want a clear structure for enabling us to move forward to achieving our goals. And that's exactly what the control cycle provides. So the key idea here is that the control cycle becomes active in very moment of communication at all times. You should be in your mind thinking about what is the goal of this conversation. How am I achieving that goal? Am I communicating in the right way? And am I making sure that it has been done properly? And am I listening and pulling in information? The key point here are to recognize that in the stages of communicating and learning are essentially push and pull in factors. So if you imagine the control cycle in front of you, you have set your goals and we have created your plan of how to do it. The communication stage is really about sending information out from you. It is about giving information, and then we have the implementation phase where that information has impact in the world. And then at the learning phase, what is actually happening is you are sucking the information back in, and what you want to have is that right balance of sending out information and bringing information back in again. And this is called active communication. The point is not just to simply inform, but also to take in and complete the cycle. That's how we make sure that you are engaged and paying attention to the situation, where that is supporting a colleague or working on a really big business deal. It is about this constant pushing out the right kind of information and pulling in the right kind of information, going round and round this the control cycle. That's where that's what builds engagement as an individual or as a team. The big danger is to not participate in the control cycle effectively, that you are just randomly performing activities. And also importantly, you are not connecting the activities together. You might be planning or you might be communicating and sending out information, but then you are not aligning that also and connecting that to implementing and learning. All five activities must be in play and must be appropriately connected together if you are actually going to make sure that you move towards achieving your goals. And that ties us neatly to why we actually need to do this. Why do we need to think clearly and communicate concisely? It is because it enables that in the conversation, you and the person are not completely lost. It is so easy to just chat away. Instead, use the control cycle to guide the conversation so that you communicate clearly and concisely. So in summary, what have we covered as this introduction? The key points for you is to make sure that you are prioritizing the creation of clear thoughts and concise communication. They are intimately connected. The two, if your thoughts are clear, then you can communicate your ideas very concisely. And we are going to explore now why that is so important. The reason why it is so important is that in today's crazy world of complexity, of uncertainty, and rapid change, we are overwhelmed with information. The exponential increase of information that we are exposed to on a daily basis means that our brains are saturated. The problem that we face is too much information, and that means that when we are in our everyday activities, it is very easy to be lost. In fact, most of the time, many of us feel like we are just kind of making things up as we go along. We are just getting by. We never quite clear about what to do next, and that's why it is so important to have clear ideas like the control cycle that provide very simple yet powerful guidance on what we need to do in the diagram in front of you. We try and illustrate this point because blue person is trying to share all their ideas represented by the big blue arrow, and the green person is trying to share all their idea, but in the sharing there is a mindlessness to it. We do not really know what we are doing and why we are doing it. We are just kind of aimlessly talking, and that is where the communication, the control cycle becomes so important, because it guides us towards structuring the way in which we converse. And what we are going to look at in the module is really useful tool for making that a very practical and easy to do, because the reality is that if we are overwhelmed with this with the information, then the thing we have to pay attention to is how we structure the information. We cannot just simply say and another thing and another thing and another thing, because that drives everyone crazy. And No one remembers anyway what we are saying. Realistically, the biggest challenge that we face today is attention and engagement. People simply have too much going on. So, when we communicate with people, we need to keep things as clear and concise as possible. Not necessarily simple, because we do not want to pretend that things are simple, but concise, and that it is packaged together as elegantly as possible. So there is a plenty of research that shows that the brain works best with three points of information, and point one, point number three, gets increasingly harder to remember it. And so do not try and make when you communicate, do not try and say more than 3 points, because realistically, that person is not going to remember. Imagine if in our lectures we said you to point number one, point number two, point number three, four, five, 6, 7, 8, 9, 14. You won't remember anything beyond point number five, and it would be completely worthless. So instead, we work to make sure the information is concise and always present to you in 3 points. So, what is the way in which you can go forward? So, we recommend the three-step method that we use throughout our framework, and we find it really useful for enabling ourselves and the people that we work with to communicate clearly. Now, though this might seems like a simple thing to learn, I can advise you that it is something that takes quite some time to master, and the reason is it is about the way in which you organize your thoughts. So the first thing to do is identify the three anchors. The three anchors are the basically the pillars around which you structure your whole ideas and the conversation. So the reason we use the word anchor is because it might be that we have ideas, issues, problems, challenges, concepts. We feel that anchor is very good way of indicating the idea that you need to have something around which to base your conversation. And so there are three anchors that you need to have a conversation. And the reason we say three is that it's always about add more and more. What you actually want to do is eliminate extraneous information that you do not need, so that you can focus on what is really important. So you can identify the three most important things. This might be, for example, to say our three goals are goals one, goal two, goal three. There are three steps to achieving this plan. The three communication problems that we face are one, two, three, or there are three ways to implementing the solution. And finally, I have learned three things today. It is simple as that. Now it is the step two, ordering them in the terms of priority. Now this is the second process which requires some thought as well, because of the three things you have learned today. Which one is the most important, which one is the second most important, and the third, and why you are ordering them in that particular manner. Thinking about why you are ordering them in that manner forces you to understand it more, understand the information more clearly, and therefore, because you understand it more clearly, you can be more concise. And that takes us into step three, because step one has allowed us to create the clarity in our mind. Step two has allowed us to create that, transform that clarity of information into concise concepts. And step three, number three, is to share those. So you could say, for example, in the conversation, I have listened to everything that you said, and these are the three things that I am going to work on you. Or you could say, I have listened to you, everything you said, and these are the three challenges that still remains. Making sure that you are working to structure the conversation is the key point here, because other people won't necessarily know about the three-step method. So in your mind, you always want to be working on what are the three key things that I need to focus on, which one is the most important, and then share that with the individual, so that you can move the conversation forward. Another example is what we are actually done throughout the whole learning journey with you on this learning module. So from the lecture 1 to lecture 21, you will see that we always have a three-step process, which is based around a quite a famous saying: tell them what you are going to say, tell them, then tell them what you said. And if you think about it, that this is how our videos are structured. First, I tell you what you are going to say. That's where when you see me standing at the video at the beginning and also in the hand animation. It is an interesting introduction for you. And then step two is when you get to expose to the framework. And the step three, we tell you what we have said in the summary. And hopefully we found that to be very useful methodology. But so what do you need to do? See, that's all the purple step telling you what you said. What you need to do is commit yourself to take the time and effort to think clearly and communicate concisely. It is the attitude information that you are developing here. It takes practice to do that, so make sure you work hard at it. Think of what you are trying to achieve and apply the three-step framework in all activities. What are the three key anchors? Where is the priority? And then make sure you share them in the right order. And then step number three, teach your team to do the same. This enables you to all communicate more effectively. It is not just about being more efficient at communication. You will reap the rewards if everyone is your team is much better at communicating with each other things, the fundamental idea of the control cycle. So, in same summary, what we covered in this lecture, we have introduced the idea that you can use the control cycle in everyday activities when you communicate. So you literally use it when you are conversing with someone by applying the three-step framework to your thoughts. You can analyze, synthesize, and present information effectively and on the fly while you are talking with someone. This means that you stop having endless conversation and start becoming a much more effective communicator.